Have you ever wondered if marriage wasn't about love, but simply a contract? A deal with no connection to the heart? Yes. It's just terms and conditions written on paper. Yang Sol is a simple girl who wants to avoid blind dates, and Jin Young, a successful businessman who only has one. I need a wife's status. Their relationship begins with a signature. But what? Can emotions be locked down? Is love yours in this fake marriage game? Will he make a way, or will everything remain just a contract? In a quiet funeral hall, Eunice lays down his diseased body. She stood near her parents' memorials, a heavy burden of grief weighing heavily on her. Tears flowed from her eyes as she mourned their loss. Her heart, her only remaining family, clung to her grandfather. After the tragic passing of her parents, he was the one. He became her anchor. He took a vow to support her and become her sole family. She had vowed to devote her life to pleasing her grandfather. But recently, she learns a heartbreaking truth. Her grandfather has late-stage pancreatic cancer, and his days are numbered. He is gone. His last request in his remaining time was to see his granddaughter married. Marriage was on Eunice's mind. It was the last thing. She was very young, and it all seemed rushed to her. But his grandfather's deep concern forced him to think about it. In college, Eunice decided to talk to his carefree and charming friend Sakun. The friend who always made her laugh and brightened her spirits. Suddenly, her mind, an idea struck her, and she pulled Sakun out of the classroom. She hesitated a bit when she was alone, and then suddenly, she asked a startling question. Will you marry me? Shakun was stunned for a moment. The stunt was done. Then a broad grin spread across his face. He playfully accepted and, laughing, said that he couldn't refuse such a big proposal. He jokingly suggested that when they both turned 30, let's get married when we're 10. Eunice was about to explain her situation when Shakun called. He escaped. His friend was calling from the other end. There were some pretty girls nearby. Come on. See you. Shakun's green eyes widened. He said this sounded like a lot of fun, and suggested they continue this conversation tomorrow. I will. As she left, she pinched Eunice's cheeks and said, I know you're just. She was joking and laughingly insisted that her heart was really pounding. He was? Then he left the campus. Standing behind, Eunice watched his departing figure. There was a tightness in her chest. Frustration welled up. She muttered to herself. I did this. What had I done, and what did I expect from him? Would he ever take me seriously? Could it? Lost in these thoughts, Eunice suddenly bumped into someone. Startled, she apologized. I tried to ask for it. But the man in front of me said in his icy tone. Next. Be mindful of where you're going, and don't daydream. Irritated by his tone, Eunice retorted. If you thought I was daydreaming, you'd be fine. He could have avoided it. There was no need to intentionally collide. He had just said this when a car suddenly appeared. She came rushing towards him. Suddenly, the man grabbed her arm and pulled her to safety. He pulled her towards him. The force of his pull caused her to collide directly into his chest. Both were so. They became so close that their lips accidentally brushed. For a moment, time seemed to standing still. The man immediately let go of her, as soon as the reality dawned on him. Yuns. She stumbled back. Her face turned red. He said in a cold tone, "Wrong. Don't get carried away." The car was speeding, so I pulled over. "Thank you," Yoon Seo murmured. She said. She looked away and said, "Pretend all this didn't happen. Maybe today we both is having a bad day." She was about to leave when his amused voice called out from behind. "What a lifesaver. You won't even thank me for doing it, and what compensation will you give for that kiss?" The smirk further embarrassed Eunice. "That wasn't a kiss," she said. "Our lips were just. It was a light touch. Don't make a big deal out of it. Haven't you ever kissed the man and—" He smirked. "Who told you I've never kissed? You're the one. You look like someone who has never been kissed." Eunice asked angrily, "What is so special about you?" "It's special, and FYI, I don't even remember kissing you. That was just a joke," she said. "People don't forget their first kiss so easily." Eunice said angrily, Do you think you're my first kiss? You're the 108th person I've kissed." "I'm sorry if it wasn't memorable," he said, turning angrily and adding, "Yes, next time, don't look at me and talk to me," he said. He stood there, watching her go. There was amusement in his eyes. A faint blush played on her lips. She murmured softly, "One road with yes. Interesting." Even back in the classroom, Yoon's mind remained unsettled. His friends. They were laughing and talking about parties and outings, but his attention was elsewhere. His mind kept going back to his encounters with Sakun and the IC men. Suddenly, the professor came in and said, "From today onwards, you will have a special guest lecturer, who will be with us for the entire semester." The lecturer introduced himself in a work and study voice. "My name is Kag Janang." Yoonan. Ace's heart skipped a beat. Her eyes widened. She looked at her notebook, shocked and terrified. She held on tight. Her mind screamed. It was that same Aining man. His face burned. She bent down and hid her face behind her notebook. Then her sharp voice echoed the student, clutching a book to her mouth. "What's your name?" Nervously. Yoonan said, stammering. "My name is Joy Yoonal." A playful smirk appeared on her face. "I came," he said in a smooth tone. "I didn't know that biting a book could lead to knowledge." She absorbs it. The entire classroom erupts in laughter. Eunse's face turns even redder. He casually flipped through the pages of his book and said, "Miss Joy, tell me where you turned the page." 108. Why didn't you explain? Her heart stopped for a moment as she deliberately paused. Then, with a slight hint of mischief in his voice, he said, "Oh, sorry. My meant page 10 at." There was a glint of amusement in his eyes. When he said that, Miss Joey, enlighten us. His smile widened. It was clear he, Yunan S., was enjoying the discomfort. As soon as the class ended, Surin casually. Professor Kang came up to her and said, "Why didn't you tell me you were going to teach here? Let's go have coffee." Kang Jang. His expression remained polite but distant. He said, "I have some business to attend to, and anyway, it is not appropriate for a professor and a student to have coffee together." A classmate asked Sir Yang, "Do you like them? Do you know?" Surin replied casually, "Yes, our families are close to each other." Later, when the friends made plans for lunch and decided to eat Jading Mayan. When she thought about it, Eunse refused. She gave a weak smile, saying she was tired and she's heading straight home. As she passes through the hallway, she sees King Junjian walking in front of her. He mustered up his courage and called out, "Mr. Kang, can we talk?" He paused for a moment. Then his sharp gaze fixed hers directly on his eyes. Eunice hesitated and said, "I'm sorry about how our first meeting went. And should we discuss this matter with class? Can you put it out?" His tone was unreadable. When he asked, "Don't you remember who I am?" "I am." Then a glint of amusement returned to his eyes. He said, "I never discuss personal issues. I don't bring it up in class. I'm just a professor, advising my students. Don't be an agent." His voice softened. It was sarcasm. Eunice's mouth fell open, in shock, but unable to utter a word. He turned and left. She stood there, frustration rising within her. In the evening, upon reaching the apartment, her phone rang. "Hello, Yunil, how are you?" Her grandfather's cheerful voice came. "I'm fine, and you're fine?" He asked. He said, "I'm fine too. I'm coming to town this Saturday." "An old. You should go too. You're meeting a friend's son. You should go too." Boons agreed. He said, "Great. I'll come pick you up. See you." As soon as the call was disconnected, he stared at the phone for a moment. The next day, amid mild rain, Unisha went to a temple with her grandfather. She arrived at a luxurious estate. Taijin was called warmly by her grandfather. "Host." The owner of such a large company came to the gate himself, he said with a smile. "This is a surprise." Grandfather teased with a laugh. But Ten said, "I had to come myself. I'm going to meet this young lady." I was excited to meet him. Yunes politely offered. His grandfather introduced us. "This is Tegan and his wife, yes? These are the children of my old friend Kagdo, who was also very close to your parents. He's the owner of TJ Corporation." "Owners," Eunice said with a warm smile, lovely to meet you. Jin said, You've become a beautiful young lady. Hao smiled and led them inside. Let's go to the grand entrance. Your family has done a lot for our company, Taishan said casually. Without your parents' support for the TJ Corporation doesn't even reach here. Grandfather brushed off the compliment. Once inside, Tajin looked a little. I should have met you after your parents left, he said regretfully. I'm sorry, Hor said softly. Don't make it heavy. Let's talk about something good. To change the mood, Ten smiled and said, If you want, you can consider us your family. I've always wanted a daughter. Now, perhaps I'll get the chance to play the younger sister and elder brother along with the daughter. Laughing, she said, Just do it. We'll embarrass you. Then Sin proudly said, Hey, here's our second son, Xiao. Hello. He bowed and said, Nice to meet you, I'm Gogo. Just then, confident footsteps echoed down the hallway. Everyone turned and looked. The first son entered the room. A sudden tension filled the air. Yunan SS eyes widened when she saw it was none other than. It was the same man, Kang Junyang, who had saved her from the speeding car. Their eyes met and they froze. Junyang. Fet really knows how to joke, his voice filled with amusement. It was full. Eunice took a deep breath. Suppressing her irritation, she said, By the way, thank you for saving me. My life. Her tone was polite but guarded. Mischief flashed in Juanxiang's eyes. But you said you didn't remember anything. And now you remember everything. Including that case. Eunice said sharply. Interrupted. His face turned red. No need for details. Yes, I know everything. Remember, sir? He nodded with an awkward smile. He chuckled softly. You can forget about it outside, sir. Eunice stood up straight, straightened his posture, and shook his head. Shakingly, she said she can't call him Jun Young, because he's older than her and clearly much more experienced, too. His smile grew wider. Yours from experience. I mean, it's my first kiss. But how can I match you? You've already done it 108 times. His face. She turned red. She glared at him, stammering. He chuckled and said, I'm right, Miss Joy. His frustration exploded. You're impossible. I'm being polite because of my grandfather and your parents. But you. He pointed his finger at her. Better be careful out there, because we might be in trouble. I don't even know her, he said, casually suspecting. That's exactly what I want. Someone. There's no need to pretend to be nice. It doesn't suit me anyway. With that, he turned and left. Yaniel froze. She stood there, her fists clenched, and irritation simmered inside. In college. Upon returning, Yanil shared with her friend that she was looking for a potential partner, and even suggested Sakun. He even proposed. Could you marry someone like that? Her friend was shocked. She was gone. Then he scolded her, saying, "You want someone mature and established. Not just anyone." Suddenly, it occurred to her. The idea came. "Hey, my aunt runs a matchmaking business. I'm your blind. I'll arrange a date. This Saturday is fine." She didn't even give Eun-se a chance to respond. And decided decisively. Yang S met his matchmaking partner at a hotel on Saturday. "I was waiting for the first guy to come over and introduce himself politely. But soon, he just talked endlessly about his good looks." The next Saturday, she met another guy who was so cautious that he was controlling and wouldn't let her eat freely. Every week, she met different guys. Some were overly bold and straightforward. When he started flirting, someone would tell him scary stories about ghosts. It became clear to him how difficult it was to find a suitable match. It's difficult. But one Saturday, she found a boy genuine. While talking, suddenly the cup fell. The boy immediately extended his handkerchief. That small gesture brought a little hope to Eunice. Perhaps someone decent can still be found. In another part of the same hotel, Junjiang. "I was sitting there arguing with my mother on the phone. Why did you make promises without asking me?" Her tone was filled with irritation. Mother explained after finishing her work. "It wasn't me, it was my friend. She wants to introduce her daughter to you. Your company is doing very well. So she thought." As soon as the call ended, a girl came up to him smiling. "Hi Junjiang." She looked at him seriously. "Have we met before?" the girl said with a beaming face. "Yes, last year at Prince Ivan's birthday party he started rambling non-stop. I'll tell you about Prince. I can help you expand your business by introducing you to him." Junjiang was visibly annoyed. Finally, he stood up and said politely, "Nice. I'm meeting you, but I have work to do. I have to leave." The girl said quickly, "I'll be back." "You came at an inconvenient time. I'll leave." As she left, Junyoung sighed with relief. Breathed. Meanwhile, Eunice's date continued on the other side. Initially, everything was fine. But then the guy's tone changed. He said, "I spent 30 million just to meet a girl of your level." Eunice's interest was evident. He suddenly grabbed her hand and said, "Don't lie. Girls like you are low class and desperate. Come with me or I'll report you." In her eyes, I was filled with anger. "Yes, report it. Just report it to the police. I'm not afraid." Then a familiar voice called out. Juanyang, who was passing by, stopped. The boy was trying to protect her. Ignoring him, he said, "If you need money, I can get it for you." He simply said. Someone grabbed her hand tightly. Yan-se looked up. There in front of her was Juan. Icy glare in his eyes. His grip was so tight that the boy recoiled in pain. Without a word, Juan took Eunice's hand and led her out of there. She huffed and puffed along with him. "Thanks." I don't know what would have happened if you hadn't come, he said breathlessly. Then he looked at his hand. Looking at him, she said, "You can let go now." She let go of his hand and asked, "What about the blind dead?" She said irritatedly, "Whatever, it was none of your business." He said smilingly, "Judging by how you were dressed, was it really the dead man or that boy?" He was speaking. His face turned red. He quickly turned down his lunch and sat down in a chair. She went away. Taking a deep breath, she said, "My grandfather is ill. This is his last wish. See me get married. My friend's aunt runs a matchmaking agency. So I wanted to try." His expression turned serious. He asked, "What about marriage and should love be every woman's dream? And are blind dates acceptable?" She frowned again and said, "It's not easy. I don't love you. I just want the title of wife to please my grandfather." He stared intently at her. She said softly, "I thought he was a good boy. Maybe I can finally fulfill grandfather's wish." Junjiang pulled the chair next to him and sat down without saying anything. He thought for a moment. Then he looked at her and said, "Miss Joy, will you marry me?" "It's done." A moment later, a nervous laugh broke out. "You're kidding. Right?" His expression. He was absolutely serious. He reminded me. "You said if someone asked you to marry them. If he asks, you won't refuse." Her smile slowly faded. She said, "But why? Why you?" He bent down a little and said in a low voice, "This marriage is beneficial for both of you. They both fit each other's criteria. Their families knew each other. He knew, and Yunsel's grandfather would be happy if she married him." Eun-seol asked Junyoung what she would get from this. He replied softly, "You want the title of wife, just as he wants the status of husband." Hearing this, Eun-seol, his eyes widened, realizing he too had come there for a blind date. He confirmed and interrupted her thoughts, saying that he was losing his time. He doesn't want to waste time on dates. If he were to marry someone else, he would have to deal with their feelings. But Eun-seol, he just needs a title, which makes it convenient for both of them. Eun-seol looked at him thoughtfully and mumbled softly that she couldn't even imagine them getting married. Then, pausing, she asked, "What?" She might have some time to think. With a confident smile, Junyoung replied, "Fine, he'll give her 3 days. And meet sharp on the 3rd day at 5 p.m. in the same parking lot where she first met him." They had met several times. If she didn't come, it would mean she had rejected his offer. 3 days later, Junyoung was waiting in the parking lot as promised. He looked at his watch. It was 4:50 p.m. His eyes were fixed on the quiet, empty path. She was walking around. Minutes ticked by, and when she checked the time again, it was 5:10 p.m. Disappointed, he unlocked his car and wondered what he had expected after all. What was he doing? Just as he was about to get into the car, someone called his name. He He turned around to see Eun Seol running towards him. Slightly breathless, she apologized. She complained about being late and said her class ended later than expected. June Young's expression remained serious. She replied that she was 10 minutes late. Now? Eun Seol, still breathing, said that she had come to accept his offer. He had one condition. He stood up straight and firmly stated that this marriage had to remain a secret. I should. At least until he graduates. Because Jun Young is very popular on campus, and if this news gets out, it would be a disaster for him. A small smile appeared on Jun Young's lips. He nodded. He agreed, extending his hand for a handshake and saying, "In that case, nice working. We miss you." But suddenly he pulled Eun Seol towards him, and she was in his arms. I fell down. She was shocked and put her hand on his chest and said, "What are you doing? Why are you just hugging me like that?" He smiled and leaned in a little and said, "Well, now if you are a couple then you should start behaving like that." The atmosphere became tense during dinner at Kangmesh. All eyes were on Jun Young. With a steady expression, he announced that he had news. He was getting married to Choi Yoonyo. Her father's face lit up with joy and he said, "Mr. Choi's granddaughter, that's wonderful news." But in contrast, Mrs. Kang's expression turned worried. His father nodded approvingly, and said that he had only heard of this when he visited him. He felt it. But he wasn't sure. Jun Young replied softly that they had been waiting for a long time. We're dating, but she didn't know their parents knew each other. Ms. Kang interrupted. He did. His voice was firm but restrained. He asked when they were in a relationship. Where are you from? Because he's only been teaching on their campus for the past week. And isn't this marriage decision a bit rushed? Seeing her gaze, Jun Young evenly replied that they had been dating for a long time. She just hadn't told him. She replied smoothly and then added with a faint smile. This was the reason she didn't like it when they introduced her to their friends. She used to push me on blind dates with her daughters and they said, "Don't worry, mother. I'm marrying Yang Sale because I love him." Miss Gang's eyes widened slightly. A pang of panic. A wave of emotion washed over him. He wondered if he even knew what love was. Irritated, he held his hand in his hand. He clutched the difference tightly, but his expression remained composed and forceful. "Why didn't you bring him here?" she asked with a smile. "I'll talk to him on the phone myself." Eun was shocked by this news. She was overcome and asked Jun Young if did his mother get suspicious. Jun Young's tone remained calm. He said, "Just stick to the plan. Stick to it. Answer everything exactly, as discussed and that usual spot. But he'll wait. Don't be late." As soon as the call ended, Yuno looked at his phone. Anxiety began to swell in her chest, wondering how she would be able to stay. At the Din Kang house, Mrs. Kang greets him in a disappointed tone. "Gun Young. How could he leave you alone like that? Only Unsol replied that she had to attend to an urgent matter, so she came alone. Ms. Kang gave her a brief rest. He already told us about marriage. But you're still in college. Is this a little rusty? No. Yuna straightened her posture and replied firmly. We decided. I was going to keep it a secret until I graduate. Ms. Kang pressed further. Her tone became a little sharper. He asked how long they had been dating and why they hadn't told him before. Feeling the tension, Yunil tried to ease concerns. In a steady voice, he urged them to take this matter very seriously. He was a little taken aback. His expression softened. He said it wasn't that he didn't like Yunil. Yes. I just had a few questions, he asked, looking thoughtfully at Yunil. Are you sure? Do you love my son? Yunil asked, trying her best to appear sincere. Yes, I love him with all my heart, she replied. Miss Kang then asked Narrow Dice, what else? Does Gun love you too? Eun-seol froze. Her mind raced, wondering if Mrs. How should I answer Kang's question? Just then, Jin Young's familiar voice interrupted. Mother, this. Should I ask the question or should he? Yuno started, turning around and Jin Young entered the room and wrapped his arm around her shoulders, pulling her closer. Then Mrs. Kang. I told you that we love each other, and what do you have to do to make him believe it? He looked at Eun-sol with a playful smile and said, Mother. Isn't that a little strange to ask? Do you agree? Only Yuno nodded and said no. Mrs. Kang was just married to you. Mrs. Kang observed both of them. The worry deepened as Eun-sol complained while leaving the house, do you really? Jin Young replied casually, and how she believed it was necessary to act like this. That Yuno wrote, there was no need to hug, he said smilingly to you. You should have seen your face when my mother asked the question, and I hugged you. She looked really awkward. She huffed. How could she not look awkward? We barely see each other. You know, and you didn't even do it before. When she got home, she politely. She said thank you and started to get out of the car. But before she could, Jin Young grabbed her hand and I kissed him. He said with a teasing smile. Looks like we've had some practice. I need it. Yuno's eyes widened and her face turned crimson. She stammered. Practice, yes, practice. She explained that we had to look like a real couple every chance we got. Yuno jerked her hand away and said, no, there's no need for that. I can manage. He teased, you. So you're already confused. Like right now. He leaned closer to her. His playful gaze deepened. Yuno's face grew redder. Alarmed, she pushed him away and exclaimed. I did. I don't need it. Then she quickly got out of the car. As she left, her phone rang. It happened. He saw that the call was from his grandfather. Quickly he answered. From the other side. Grandpa's warm, amused voice came. Why didn't you tell me earlier? I would have agreed to the marriage immediately. Hearing the happy expression, a slight smile appeared on Yo's lips. But a nervous feeling also rose in her heart, knowing there was no turning back now. The call ended. After she was done, she went back to the car and leaned against the window and said, "Well, let's practice then." Leaning inside the car, Jin Young asked hesitantly, "Do we really have to practice kissing?" I looked at him with mischievous eyes and asked, "What do you think?" I waited for an answer. Without a second thought, he grabbed her face and placed his lips on hers. You know, she froze. Her eyes widened. The moment dragged on, and their kiss deepened. After a while, Jin Young stepped back. With a slight smile, she said, "It was a wedding kiss, and when we soon. If you're going to do it, it's best to practice. Don't you think so?" Still flustered, Yuno just nodded silently. She quickly got out of the car. Inside the car, Jin Young blushed slightly. He started rubbing his neck, as if he was replaying the moment over and over again. The next day at college, Yuno looked at her friends and wondered if she could tell anyone this secret. She decided to tell Yang Gan. Walking together, she mustered up the courage to say, "I need you to know something. I have something important to discuss." Yang Gan asked teasingly, "Are you Mary? Are you going to?" Yuno replied awkwardly. "Actually, yes." Yang Gan froze. Asked in shock, whom Yuno took her to a quiet spot, and took a deep breath and said, I am going to marry Mr. Kang." Young Gun said, with a pointing finger. "I knew it. I always felt like something was going on between you two," Yuno quickly whispered. "Please keep it down, only you know, keep it a secret." Young Gun hugs her. "I did," he said, "and congratulated you on finally finding your way." But after a while, Yang's smile turned into one of concern. She asked, "Why are you proposing marriage? What's the reason?" Yang Sol decided. "It's better to be honest. He said he's like me. He just wants status and time. I don't want to waste it." Yang Gan thought for a while and then asked if it was he who saved you from all those blind dates. Before Yuno could answer, Yang Gun. Michelle Green said, "So he's your white knight, riding on a white horse. I came to save you." Yuno's imagination went a little wild, but she rolled her eyes. Lee? Just then Sakun came from behind and said in a cheerful tone, "Is Y Spring running? Let's go to the campus cafe for coffee." In the cafe, Jin Young was quietly sipping coffee. He looked outside to see three men laughing and walking towards the cafe. He spotted Eun Seol. His eyes were fixed on the woman he was about to marry. He couldn't take his eyes off her bright smile. Suddenly, Surin's voice interrupted his gaze. Surin came over, greeted her with a cheerful smile, and sat down next to her. She said, "If I had known you were here, I would have joined earlier." Just then, in the cafe, the group entered. Shakun waved enthusiastically and said, "Oh, SJ and Mr. Kang are here too." "Yes." Then he said excitedly, we are going out to eat. You two should join us. Yuno signaled to refuse. But Jin Young's lips curled into a smile. He ignored it and said, "Okay, I'll join you." The atmosphere in the restaurant was tense. Yuno felt uncomfortable. As always, Sakun placed a half-cooked egg on her plate and asked, "Do you like it?" Jin Young said. Sakun observed this gesture carefully. He laughed and explained. Seoul is from G Island, and it's traditional to put an egg on top. Jin Young said with a slight smile. I don't know. It was. And then Eun looked at Seoul and asked softly. When did you move, Seoul? Eun answered. I should have given it. Before that, Sakun spoke again. She had come just as college started. Before that, she had come to her. She lived with grandfather on G Island. Yuno was annoyed. Why couldn't she just keep quiet? Could it? Just then, Sakuna picked up the food from his bowl. Irritated, Yuno snapped. In my bowl. Don't put down your chopsticks. Take it all, So-yang remarked with a smile. You two have a really cute bond. Sakun. Green put his arm around Yuno's shoulders. We are very close friends. Jean. Young remained silent, his expression unreadable. After dinner, Sakun and So-yang left for club activities. Yuno also. She got up and said, I'll go too. But Jin Young grabbed her bag. Young Gun said, okay, I'll go first. Now alone. Jin Young bluntly said, you should have told me earlier that you have a boyfriend. It makes me uncomfortable. Irritated, Yuno snapped. He's not my boyfriend. And why did you even come? Jin Young said softly, we decided. I thought the relationship would remain a secret on campus. But that doesn't mean we don't know each other. I was just behaving naturally. Yuno wondered how it could be so much work when marriage wasn't real. As he left, he commanded her to follow him to the car. Yuno felt a slight sadness in her heart. What did I even expect from him? Suddenly, he extended his hand. Yuno was shocked. She asked, what are you doing? He said smoothly. I should practice whenever I get a chance. After a moment of hesitation, she took his hand. They walked hand in hand to the car. She resolved. If he's cold, I'll be cold too. There won't be any feelings in this relationship. Jean reached the car. Young opened the door and said with a smile, you're still uncomfortable holding hands. You should be skilled by now. Considering you've kissed 108 times. Yuno glared, but nothing. I couldn't say it. Then I softly said, sorry. And I tried to improve myself. He held her hand again. Which looks more romantic, like this or like this? Jean Young. He interlocked her fingers with his and said with a steady gaze, like this. She felt the warmth of his hand and fluttered. Letter Yuno to her friend Guangan. We spoke. She expressed concern. This marriage is legally binding, but not real. How long? Will you pretend until then? Yuno thought she was right. I have to make a plan. Jean. He's a young businessman. He must have thought it all through. But the next day, in the car, I saw him. He handed her a paper. Jean Young asked, "What is this?" She said, confidently, "Marriage agreement. So that neither of us is at a disadvantage." He read the paper and said, "Point. That's right. The first point is to keep your marital status a secret." Okay. But if you tell a friend, I'll tell someone of mine too. Then he read the second point, behaving appropriately. He also said this. Okay. I read the third point. Personal lives are separate. Yuno interrupted, "Yes, we are not really married. So we are free to do as we please." He smirks and raises his eyebrows. "So you can have a boyfriend?" Yuno glared. "Not like that." "Yes." His eyes lit up with mischief. Reading the fourth point, he said, "I disagree. How will our families think we are married if we are not affectionate?" Yuno said firmly, "It is not necessary all the time, you will have to inform him first." He shook his head. He said, "It's not practical, we'll have to improvise," but Yuno countered, "We don't meet often anyway." Jean Young leaned back casually and dropped a bombshell. "Oh, I forgot to mention, after marriage. My mother wants you to stay at the family home until you graduate. That's her condition. It's narrowed. You're telling me this now?" Ignoring her irritation, he said, "That's it. The reason is that points 4 and 5 should be removed, and if you are talking about point 6. If your grandfather is gone, you'll have no benefits. I understand your frustration. You know that." Frustration boiled over. Why did he have to remove the 5? He said the work was unnecessary. Then he leaned in. "What do you think I'll do to you?" he said, his piercing gaze fixed on her. "Are you afraid you'll get angry?" Yuo's cheeks flushed with anger. She gave him a glare. While doing this he said, "Fine." And while grinding his teeth he crossed 4, but left 5. She said, "I'll modify it." She handed him the revised agreement. Jean Young read it aloud. "Not sleeping in the same bed." "Yes," she replied firmly. "This marriage is just business. Not emotional." "All right." He signed the paper without argument. Yuno looked at him seriously and said, "Now, after you sign, close your eyes." "Do it." He frowned slightly. "Why?" Before he could process it, she leaned in. She closed her eyes. Jin Young froze. Her mind raced. She lightly. He opened his eyes and, flustered by her hesitation, grabbed her cheeks. "Sorry. I forgot to take off my hat. I was just practicing my wedding kiss." Completed. Before that could happen, Jean Young removed her ski hat and threw it to the side. Murmured in a low voice while cupping her face. "Wedding kiss, and it's initiated by the groom." Her heartbeat quickened. Her gauges locked on him. Her breath stopped when his lips met hers. The kiss deepened, and they both became lost in the moment. Feeling the significance, the days passed and the wedding day drew near. S phone started ringing constantly. Updates, venue bookings, ceremony arrangements, and endless details. She accompanies Miss King everywhere, bedroom shopping, wedding cakes. Testing, trying on wedding dresses. One afternoon, she put on a wedding dress and stood in front of the mirror. As she stood before him, a wave of realization swept over her. This marriage contract may. It was for mutual benefit, but it was still real. He looked at his reflection. Emotions swirled within him. The ceremony was scheduled at the family home on Dodge Island. Walking through the garden, she saw the flowery decorations of the preparations. Flowers were being laid, and tables were being set. But couldn't understand why she was inside the house. Why wasn't she feeling happy despite all this? Just then, her aunt arrived with a worried expression. She came up to him and said, "Where's Jean Young? She hasn't shown up yet. She should be back by now." It should have been. Hearing those words, a pang of unease rose in Eun-seol's heart. An emptiness she couldn't even define. Suddenly, someone called her name. She turned toward the door. There he was. Her future husband was standing with the luggage. A dull face, but welcoming. Seeing him, a wave of relief ran through Eun-seol's heart. Her heart suddenly lightened. Jin Young approached, noticing her expression. He gently took the box from her hands and said softly, "Sorry, I left without telling you. Here." Before they could say anything else, his aunt arrived. Quickly introduced them. "This is Jean Young." The two began talking about the upcoming ceremony, and Eun-seol's gaze was involuntarily fixed on him. An involuntary look appeared on her face. A smile came. For the first time, he felt genuinely happy. At the Choi house at night, everyone was sitting at the dinner